Thank you. Good morning and welcome to today's Corporate Parenting Board on Tuesday the 29th of June 2021. This is a virtual meeting. It is webcast and it is recorded, but welcome everybody to the meeting. Can I ask that people do show their hands if they want to make a comment or ask a question? Jodie, have we got apologies for the meeting, please?
Yes, Chair. So apologies have been received from Jill Addy, Tom Brailsford, Sarah Miles, Christine Carmichael, Councillor Lunat, Barry Lockwood and Janet Tolley. Thank you very much.
I'm going to ask people to members to introduce themselves. But first of all, I'd like to start by welcoming Ophelia Ricks, who is our new head of corporate parenting. She's a very familiar face to us because she's very much been involved in children's services. I won't say for how long, but very much welcome her new appointment to this role. So welcome, Ophelia. Can I ask people to introduce themselves? I'll start with myself. I'm Viv Kendrick. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children's Services and a Hetman White councillor. And I'll just go around people that I can see. So I can see Elaine, please.
Good morning, I'm Elaine McShane. I'm the Service Director, Family Support and Child Protection.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Good morning, I'm Richard Smith. I'm the Shadow Cabinet Member for Children's Services and Councillor in Kirklees Ward.
Thank you. Karen.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Karen Allison. I've been a panel member for a number of years now, but I'm also a ward councillor for the Newsham ward.
Thank you. Colleen, I can see.
Hi, I'm Colleen Kenworthy. I'm a foster carer, also the chair of the Kirklees Fostering Network, which is a group of foster carers who are independent and funded and support other foster carers in the area. And we also work really well with Kirklees, supporting other foster carers.
Carol Pattison, I can see.
Oh, excuse me, thank you. Cough, cough, splutter, splutter. That's just me turning the mute off. No, my name's Councillor Carol Pattison. I'm the Cabinet Member for Learning, Aspiration and Communities, and in that role I chair the virtual school governing body, and that's my role here today. Thank you.
Welcome. Sana.
Hello, morning everyone. So I was on the corporate parenting board as a young person, but now I'm old, so I think it's my last day today, and hopefully you shall be getting a new young person, so a fresh new face.
I can't tell from the listing here whether we've got John Lawson with us. Are you with us, John? No. Help me out, Jodie.
No, he's not in the meeting, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And we have Anna Gledhill.
Good morning, Chair. My name's Anna Gledhill. I'm Service Manager for Quality Assurance and Safeguarding, and I manage the Children's Rights Service. But also, because Sarah Miles has sent her apologies today, I'm also covering for her in this meeting if there is anything in relation to the Child Protection and Review Unit.
Thank you. Welcome. Keith.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a foster carer, Kirklees Fostering Network member, and I also help on the helpline, which is a 24-hour service to help foster carers through times of trouble and success.
All right. Welcome, Keith. I did earlier see Councillor Marchington, I thought, but I can't see him now. No.
Yeah, he was.
I'm really. Yeah,
I
I
don't know
can't
where he's
see him
gone.
now.
No.
We've lost him. Obviously Ophelia, who I've already welcomed, but do you want to introduce yourself anyway, Ophelia? Just say a little bit about yourself.
Yes, good morning, Chair. Thank you. I'm Ophelia Ricks, Head of Corporate Parenting for Children Looked After and Care Leavers.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Any other board members like to introduce themselves? Because I am really struggling to see from the list where we are. No? Do we think we have everybody? I know we have one or two people who are observing today, and they're very welcome. We won't ask them to particularly introduce themselves. All right, well, we'll move on to start the meeting as such. Thank you. We have the minutes on pages 1 to 8 of the previous meeting, which was held in March. I don't know if anybody have any corrections from those minutes. Let me know if you have. Are there any comments as such? No. The only thing I would say is on page 4 and page 7, there were resolutions about information to come to the board at future meetings. And I don't know if some of those will be touched on and dealt with today, but I don't know if all of those things that were resolved are actually scheduled into our plan as such for the future. So if we could have a look at those and make sure that we include them in future meetings. So are we happy that these are a true record for those of us that were at the meeting? I'm looking for anybody to protest, since I can't see you all, so I can't see if you're agreeing. Yeah, I'm taking that those minutes are approved. Thank you. Now, point out under item 3, any board members, if they've got a pecuniary interest that they need to disclose, please let us know and fill in the form that's in the pack. These meetings are held in public, as we already said. Deputations and petitions. Jodie, have we any deputations and petitions today?
No, none received, Chair.
Okay, and we have item 6, which is public question time. I'm not aware of any public questions. Are there any?
No, none received.
Okay, thank you. So that takes us then on to item 7, which is the Children's Performance Highlight Report that Ophelia is going to help take us through. And I understand that I've just become completely brain dead in terms of Stuart is going to address the health issues, and is Laura going to comment on any of the sufficiency bits, it says in my listing. So Ophelia, over to you for item 7, please.
Thank you, Chair. So just in relation to the looked after children's data, we have, you'll see from the information presented that there's we continue to see a decrease in the trend and the rate of children looked after within Kirklees. And I see that as a positive picture in relation to that we have clear robust procedures and processes whereby we have panels that look at on a weekly basis children, young people who need to become looked after. We work clearly with our partners to ensure timely responses, so we're not looking at any sort of drift and delay, and we're very much around ensuring that children and young people remain within their family. So we have clear process in relation to the early intervention, ensuring that we've got the right support and that they're overseen by the heads of service in terms of that oversight. So, you know, I think it's really positive that we're seeing a decrease in terms of our looked after children. And that isn't to say that where children need to become looked after, we have clear processes in place to ensure the timeliness, to ensure that we're presenting the matters before the court and that we're ensuring where children need to be looked after, then that clearly is happening. So for me, that's a really positive picture in relation to that. In relation to just ensuring that children have the right access to services, we have a fortnightly panel that looks at all children, young people, to ensure that again that we've got the right services in place and that we have all partners involved in that, because again we're really keen that children remain within the family unit. So just in terms of that, I don't know if anyone's got any questions in terms of that particular aspect.
I'm just looking to see if anybody's putting a hand up. I'm not seeing anything. I have to say, I feel it's really reassuring that, you know, these numbers are about how well Kirklees is doing, not that we're missing children who need to become looked after, that in actual fact, different parts of the organisation are enabling some children to remain at home who should be able to remain at home, which is rather different from some of our statistical neighbours. Elaine, you want to comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Ophelia's comments, because part of the support that we do offer as well is over the past 2 years we've introduced the multi-systemic therapy teams. So we've got a standard team and we've got a team that focus specifically on children at risk of exploitation. That's only one of 4 teams in the country, and actually that the work of those teams is to work with families and children. Again, it's that if they can't remain within the nuclear family, that within the extended family, but there's no range of services that we've introduced to support us in that work. And I think we're seeing the outcomes of that from the work that they're doing. And it may be Councillor Kendrick, Chair, that actually you asked for an update in terms of the work that multi-systemic therapy are doing around, because they're all focused about keeping children within the family. So it may be that we are, as part of future planning, we asked them to come and present to the meeting, so members understand, you know, their service and their outcomes that they're producing.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I mean, we have invested quite heavily in multi-systemic therapy because our first team that was set up was so successful, and we've invested in different ways. And I think the board will find it really useful to hear that. It may be that some of the board members at some point might want to visit the team. I paid a visit to them, and I have to say it was really, really effective and really helped me understand the value and the quality of what they do. I mean, it is startling. The length and depth to which they go is more than you could ever expect. So I think that's an excellent suggestion. So if we could, Jodie, make a note to add that into a future plan. But if board members would like to go to do a visit, we can arrange it if you let us know. Thank you.
I think the other thing as well, I think that would be interesting for us to hear about is actually the work they want to do. So although we talk about birth families as well, when our children are with their permanent carers, if it's a foster carer, actually the MST service can work with those families as well, because that becomes the child's family. So there's work that can be done to help maintain those placements as well, which will sit alongside the Mockingbird programme that's being introduced. So lots of things we're investing in to actually, you know, keep our children safe and in permanent placements, if not with their birth family, within their family placements. I'll just wave to the little one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So, and just in
Go on.
terms of adding, just adding to that as well, we've seen an increase in connected carers, positive assessments being undertaken as well. So children, although that they can't remain in their birth family, they've been placed with extended family members or aunties and uncles. So we're seeing an increase in that as well, and I think that's due to the successful implementation of the special guardianship order policy in relation to support in them in terms of financial support, but also we have the special guardianship order placement support team as well, who also offer support to connected carers as well. So that as well in terms of the update from Elaine has contributed to our continued decreased numbers of children having to be looked after.
Yeah, and I think that support for connected carers is absolutely essential. Certainly in the days when I could actually physically meet people, so 18 months or 2 years ago, certainly that was a message that was coming from a lot of connected carers, you know. So I mean, I think that's vital that we're able to provide that sort of support. Other parts you want to highlight for us, please, Ophelia?
Yeah, and we, in terms of the report, we've maintained contact, timely contact with children and young people, which is important. And I know it's been quite a challenge. And I think in terms of looking at the national figures, we've maintained good contact with children and young people, both in terms of the statutory requirements, but also the additional contacts that have been made outside of that. So again, that is a positive picture in relation to continuing to build relationships with our children, young people, and maintaining that contact. But we'll continue to monitor and have oversight of that, so that doesn't decline. But it's pleasing to see that we've maintained the relationships with our children, young people, and foster carers, which is really important as well in terms of those relationships.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I know you can't talk through the whole report because we haven't got enough hours left in the day to do that. I'm just going to try and push board members to signal if they've got a query. So if we looked at the children looked after reviews, visits and missing on page 12, has anybody got any comments or queries on that part? No, not seeing anything as such. On page 13, it goes on with some more detail and things that want to be improved. And I noticed the Philomena protocols mentioned there, and that there's some more work to be done with the police, because not necessarily everybody who takes the calls about a young person missing is familiar with the protocol. No.
And that will be ongoing, I think, because it'll be a piece of work to continue to work with the police and with partner agencies to ensure that we're timely we've got timely response to children missing, and ensuring that the meetings are actually taking place. But again, we're seeing a real improving picture in relation to the timeliness of children being seen when they've gone missing. Again, building those relationships and gaining an improved understanding around their circumstances, and ensuring that they're getting the right support at the right time.
Absolutely, absolutely right. Page 14 is about children looked after's educational outcomes. We haven't Janet Tolley with us today, but I don't know if anybody has any comment or question on the information on that part of the report. No.
Chair,
Yep.
I would I know an issue that you were you're concerned about, and that's the number of school moves. I mean, I think you'll notice there that over the last couple of years, those have come down, the number of moves in year, of school moves in year, I should say. And that is a priority for the virtual school. That was the only comment I wanted to make. Thanks.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I do know that Janet, as head teacher of the virtual school, has always been concerned about how that may impact on young people's learning as such. Thank you. If we move to page 15 and it moves on to children looked after and health, and I think, Stuart, you're going to help us through the information that's there.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we've seen a steadily improving picture in terms of the review health assessment data month on month. But due to the small number of initial health assessments being carried out, we've got to bear in mind that just a single breach can have a big impact in percentages. So we should take that in context. So we're still showing 93% achieved on time, which is excellent. And for the majority of the year, we've had 100% of assessments that have been completed within the statutory timescales. We're still being affected by COVID in some aspects of the review health assessment work, and we've got some issues with staff illness and staff capacity, which are impacting there still. The other improving picture is in terms of children being able to access a dentist. We've seen very low rates of that through the year as dentists have been on reduced activity due to COVID, and it's been very difficult to get them to pick up the children, our children again. But we are, although it's a small increase, it's an increase nevertheless, and we can see that things are moving in the right direction. We've got to bear in mind that the data shows a rolling 12-month figure, so it reflects the previous low performance. But the team are carrying out a lot of work to engage with dentists to improve that picture. Immunisations continue to go well, so we're seeing children of all ages having a good level of immunisation. GPs and community service have continued throughout the pandemic to ensure that children are immunised.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have to say, Jill Addy's tenacity about the dental issue has to be congratulated. I mean, it was looking like what on earth can we do? So it's really good to see it improving. Still a lot of room for improvement, but over time, hopefully, it will get back up to the level that it was at pre-COVID as such. We move to page 16 and 16 children looked after convictions. I don't know if there's any comment that needs to be made about the youth justice and offending.
Councillor Kendrick, it's Elaine.
Yeah.
I'll comment. You can see that actually the offending rates are reducing, and that we're doing a lot of work around that, a lot of work with our children's homes, to sort of address that, our looked after children do complete their interventions. I think it's true to say that last year we had some significant incidents which resulted in children becoming looked after because of that. So that actually affects the figures, increase the figures. There weren't children looked after previously. What I can say, Chair, is that this week we have our Youth Justice Inspection, Youth Justice Service Inspection. So they'll be looking at all this data, this information, not only our children looked after, but our broader cohort within that service. So I envisage after the summer, we can bring the outcome report, which will, I'm sure will make reference to work done around looked after children. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be very welcome. Yeah. Looks stuff a busy time then for the team.
Very busy.
So page 17, we've got the care leavers information. Anybody got any comments or questions as such? Colleen, you have a...
Yeah, obviously I've got some staying put placements with me, and sometimes PAs can change, and sometimes that can be an issue why they don't want to engage with the service. Luckily mine are all quite level-headed and understand that people change jobs and that lot, but when you're changing social workers when you were younger and then they change PAs, it can disrupt, and they've lost that adult connection with them. So that's just something I wondered whether we could report, see how many changes of PAs they have. So see if that's a factor why they're not engaging.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. It's certainly something that we'll look at. You'll know, or you might not know, that we're doing a lot of work around the PA service, and I know you've actually seen our stay and put policy that's not here today, but actually will be in the future. We're just doing some, at least for myself, just tidying up the technical bits. Lots of technicalities within these documents, but that's almost complete. We've actually revised the job description of the PAs. That needs to go to grading panel, and it's a bit about modernising the service and making sure that it is actually fit for purpose and doing the great job that we need it to do. And you're right, it's key that actually we engage these young people, you know, post 18. Well, we need to engage beforehand, don't we? But actually post 18, those relationships need to be built and effective so they can continue on through, even when they don't necessarily want them. It's still like having that door open, but you know, they might close it, but you say actually it's open. So I think again, once we've got all the policies done, and I'm myself and Ophelia are going to do some work with the PAs ourselves, just in terms of our expectations, what we want the service to look like, how we want them to work with young people in a modernised agenda, really.
Yeah.
That's good. My young person's working with her PA, the new one, and she's coming with suggestions, helping her claim for things, helping apply for university. So it's absolutely fantastic when the PA is right and the relationship's right. It works really, really well. So thank you for everything you do for our care leavers, and it's bound to get better. I know that.
And I think the important thing, it's about ensuring that we're better matching as well our personal advisors to young people, because we want the relationships to be sustainable as well. So we've got some work to do and some further discussions around that. So, but it's really refreshing to hear, you know, that there are positives and those relationships are beginning to happen, that we've got the right infrastructure. And again, so, you know, sort of welcome continuing conversations and discussions to improve it even further. So yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody for the input.
Yeah, that's really welcome, Colleen. I know you're very open to challenge, but you're also very open to compliment when it's right. So thank you for that. Councillor Karen Allison.
Hi, yeah, just going on to PAs and a young person who's got their own property. How often does the PA try and get hold of them? Because I know of one, there's a meeting about it today, and I think the PA has been struggling to get through. How often does the PA try to contact the young person? Is it weekly? Is it every other day? Or
Have I heard? I think it's. I think I've heard this, Councillor Allinson. I couldn't hear you quite properly.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
no, it's all right. I think you said how often do they contact them?
Yeah,
right. So I'd got my best ears on, so
sorry
I didn't quite. So right, the statute requirement is 6 weekly. But actually what we ask PAs to do is do an assessment, look at the pathway plan, and actually it should be more bespoke. It depends on the needs of the young person. I would say actually 6 weeks for some is okay. Some might not want to see, but actually for others, you're right. Is it weekly? Is it more than once a week? In some situations, you know, we have conversations about the PA seeing the young person 2 or 3 times a week. It's not, for me, it's not a one size fits all, because all our 200 and almost 40 care leavers are all different and all have different needs, and we need to be responding to that. That's why I talk about the modernisation of a service. If it might say 6 weeks, actually that's not what we're looking at. What does that young person need, and how are we responding?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there are any issues raised, if something's happened, or how does the PA get to know?
There should be regular contact.
Yeah.
They should be, you know, and they might not be face-to-face visit. They have text approaches. you know, the different ways of communicating. And again, that's a personal thing for young people. Some want that face-to-face, some want, you know, to drop that text. And I see regularly, because I go on to Liquid Logic, which is our recording system.
Yeah.
I can see text between PA, well, sometimes social workers and young people as well. You know, so there's a demonstration that people are being seen. Sana will have a comment as a now older person, Sana.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, Sana.
And I know Colleen is having a care leaver in the house. We'll have a view as well.
So we've got the 2 drop-ins which you can drop into, and they're in town. They're in the middle of the town centre. And also we have a duty. We have 2 PAs on duty at all time. So no matter when you call up, you can just call one of those. So you know, sometimes say like Christmas Day and things like that, the regular PA might not work, but we'll still have someone on duty. So things like that. So maybe if I'd just advise, if the PA is not available, I'd just ring the duty number.
Yeah, it's just some casework I'm dealing with at the minute. I think if it's okay with you, Elaine, could I contact you after this meeting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's fine. Colleen's hand was up and it's gone again. Was it an old hand, Colleen?
Oh, it's a new hand. I just want to say about because I'm a foster carer and I do staying put. I do liaise with the PA as well, because sometimes kids don't always reply to the text messages or phone calls, or say no, I haven't, and they go, yes, I've texted but she hasn't replied to me or whatever. So we work really well. We've worked really well with looking at the new staying put policy as well, the implications for that. So the PAs do work well, but it's got to be young adult led really thing. Because if they don't ring and say they've got an issue, then the PA will think everything's fine. They do check up periodically, and I know they do that. But if you've got someone behind you that's helping the young person make contact and help them with it, then that's the key issue. But obviously, if they're on property, that's different, because they're having to do everything, and that's where it's down a little bit. So
this is the problem.
I'd be involved in that and be an advocate for that, if it's something they can do for care leavers. To help, push that along as well.
Yeah, see, the person I'm thinking about, I don't think has got that Colleen Kenworthy behind them to give them a little bit of I think every care leaver needs a Colleen, and this person sadly hasn't got that and got themselves into a little bit of trouble, unfortunately. But I'll talk to you.
I offer my services free of charge, and if they want
to bless you.
We'll phone Colleen immediately after this meeting. Ophelia, you want to come in?
Yeah, no, I just think it's really important. I think in light of the conversation, I think we need to review and to look at how often our young people are seen and visited, and I think particularly depending what their individual circumstances are. So we've got a young person who's in semi-independent living, or they're in their own tenancy, then for a period of time, do we need to be saying that visits should be weekly rather than 6 weekly? So I think we've got to go back and review that and then come up and again, so it's absolutely bespoke. So I think there'll be some givens, I think, in relation to that we really have to look at. If they've moved into their own tenancy, then I would expect to see that the visits are increased to weekly, then with a review then to look at, then do they go to fortnightly, and whatever the agreed frequency is thereafter. So I think that's something that we do need to look at, so that we've got that embedded, and the work that Elaine and myself will be doing with the PAs, with the personal advisors, is to explore that and to talk about under what circumstances would and do we need to be visiting our young people.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Ophelia.
Invaluable.
Yeah. Knowing what I know about this person, I think that would be invaluable to them. I would. Thank you.
Yeah, but you can pick that up with Elaine afterwards.
Yeah,
as well.
thank you.
Now then, I've got Colleen's hand up. Is it an old hand? And Sana's hand up. Is it an old hand or is it a new one?
Old hand.
Oh, they've all dropped away. Good, we'll move on then. Page 18 then. is about most of that page is on the adoption figures and information. Have we got any comments or questions on that? Not seeing anything as such. I suppose our average time scale between a child coming into care and being placed with a doctor is higher than our statutory neighbours and the England average. I don't know, although it is dropping, and that has to be welcomed, and hopefully it's going back to a level it was in 2020. You know, there'll be all sorts of reasons, I assume, COVID related, that have got in the way of that rather.
Yeah, I think delays
Right.
in the court. So, Councillor Hendrick, sorry, delays in the court process. I can say, because I'm the agency decision maker for adoption, so I'm the person that makes the decision about a child being adopted. I'm doing this because it's a process, and then I also do the matching, so the final matching of children. And I know that actually we're doing that in a real timely way, but actually then the final order for adoption is at the behest of the court, and obviously the family when they want to make that application, and there have been some delays in that. So I think, you know, COVID has had an implication. I think we've got some historical cases where we've not rescinded adoption in a timely way, and I think we will see improvements as we move forward, as hopefully as we move out of this COVID period as well, when we get courts back to some semblance of whatever the new normality is going to be. Yeah,
let's hope so. If we move on to fostering, then it starts on page 19, etc., and on to 20. I don't know if we've got any comments or questions. Keith, you've got your hand up. And I can't hear you, Keith, so I think you're muted.
I didn't think I had put my hand up, actually. I don't know if I may have touched.
Oh, well, you've touched something, your hand's up. Never mind, I'll ignore it.
Thank you.
Anybody else with any comments about fostering? I just say, I mean, constantly Kirklees is looking to recruit new foster carers. I know I've just done a quote this week for the latest campaign that's due to start. If anybody is watching this webcast and you've thought about fostering, for goodness sake, ask us. You know, we'll answer and support you through anything if you want. If you have an interest in being a foster carer, and we have a fantastic foster carers network who provide immense support and information to carers. So no questions or comments on the fostering part of the report. Thank you very much. I think therefore that concludes item 7. Thank you for everybody's participation. If I can move on then please to agenda item 8, which is very connected. It's the number and age of children in care, an overview of that. And Ophelia, you're back on stage again. I don't know if you have anything you need to highlight or comment on this.
Sorry, I've set myself off mute. I think I've already highlighted in relation to the number of children looked after. It's a significant figure compared to national statistics. But as I previously highlighted, I feel that we've got a clear, robust, timely process in place in relation to ensuring that we've got the right children to be looked after at the right time. We have the support for connected carers. We've got the MST, so we've got a number of processes to ensure that children remain within their family units, and we feel it's safe to do so. So there's nothing else that I want you to add on that, unless anyone had any additional questions that they needed to ask.
No, it takes us through pages up to page 26. There's a bit about children placed outside of the authority. And I think, as we asked before, it identifies the places that, the areas that people are placed. Colleen.
Yeah, like I was saying, there's obviously foster carers who live 20 miles away from things, but they are local authority carers. It doesn't automatically mean that they're in independent fostering agencies. And I think that's something that we should really highlight, because obviously there's different budgets for different things. And obviously a few carers that live seaside as well, that move with their children. So that's classed out of area, but that's a long-term settled placement. And sometimes, as we know, children need to be in a safer place, a little bit further away from home. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a massive issue. We do need more local authority carers. I do know that, and support's getting better. And I know Elaine's putting a lot of effort into to get it right for children and foster carers. So I'm looking forward to the next 6 to 12 months to see how that, you know, it blossoms and grows, as I call it.
It's an exciting time ahead. You know, part of the recruitment and retention, actually, it's really important that we retain our foster carers. So thank you, Colleen. We are doing a lot of work around our placement support service along with Mockingbird to ensure that from the outset of foster carers being approved, they have the right support, and actually we don't get to crisis situations. It's that ongoing approach using an evidence base. Again, it's about modernising that placement support service that brings different dimensions together to make sure that we can get the right support at the right time. Really important that we don't miss opportunities and the care is equally as important as the young person, making sure their needs are met alongside the young person's, because that's what keeps the balance and harmony within households. Really important.
Yeah. But I have to thank you, Elaine, and your team for the work you're doing in bringing forward a lot of the support to our foster carers and to our young people who are looked after.
Yeah,
right.
Sorry, can I just add just one? I think just in terms, I think it's just important to know, just in relation to the number of children who are between 10 and 15 who are looked after. I think that's really important because I think there are some challenges both nationally and locally in relation to finding appropriate placements. So I think there's some more work to be undertaken both within the community and with partners to look at how we can better support our 10 to 15-year-olds, because again we're seeing an increase in that age group, both male and female. So I just think I just wanted that to be noted today, and I think just in relation to sort of further work that we do need to do around that. And again, and I think if it's obviously clearly right for children between those age groups to be looked after, how do we get the right foster carers and or connected carers to actually support and work with the young people? So you know, I think it's an ongoing challenge for us all. So I think it's just important to be noted, and I think there's some further dialogue that does need to take place in relation to that. And again, and I think with COVID as well, I think that's had a real impact on parental parents feeling able to actually support the children. I think there's been additional pressures and factors that have contributed to that. So I just think it's an area of focus for us going forward.
I think that's a really important point to feel. Yes, thank you. I think just picking up on Colleen's point about the fact that some foster carers who are out of area are our foster carers, not independent agencies. It would really be interesting if it doesn't end up as too much work and divert you from other important things. It would be really interesting to see at some point the numbers of those. Colleen, you have your hand up again.
Yeah, I was just going to say that obviously the children that are coming in are sometimes a bit more complex because we've got to the thing. So a new support and Mockingbird will probably help connected carers and carers that are struggling, and not to be overwhelming the Mockingbird carers with placements that are stable and don't need that extra support. So I agree. I think Mockingbird is absolutely amazing. It works in other areas, but for the right child and the right carer that needs that support, should be a fantastic thing for them. You know, some just need a little bit. That's what CareFen's for. We offer a support group for teenage carers as well. So we have our own KFN teenage support group, which is well attended, and a lot of, you know, things are mentioned there that we do feedback into the service. So just to let people know there is support out there if they need to get in touch.
Yeah, and that feedback's invaluable, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
As you mentioned Mockingbird, and of course, like many things, COVID got in the way of Mockingbird for us and what have you. Do we have any sort of estimated date, time of arrival of Mockingbird, do we think? I know there's a whole process to go through that's quite complicated. Do we think it will be within this year, or we're not sure?
I think it sits within this year, Councillor Kendrick. It sits alongside the work we're doing for the broader placement support. I think Colleen's right, and Kieran Lord will have oversight of the placement support under my umbrella. And what we're trying to do is make sure that you're right, it's actually having the right type of support at the right time, and making sure we've almost got a catalogue of things that people can look at, but it's having that timely early support. I'm thinking September. You know, there's progress being made, Councillor Kendrick. But
all right.
Although, you know, I
won't hold you to it, but that's
no. But I'm thinking
hopeful.
about the decompression over the summer. That is probably us doing work in the background to get things lined up, ready. I've got sort of September as our next phase of moving forward. But lots of discussions to be had about how these services look as well, because we do need the expertise of our current carers, what works well, what doesn't work so well. We're using evidence base. We're going to be using formulation. We've got a formulation service manager that's going to come and work with us, that will train around formulation, which is as an evidence base. So lots of things happening in the background, and once we've got something it's a bit like the policies that we've done on care leavers and the like. It takes a lot of work, but then once it's done, if we get it right, it will have a real positive impact, I'm sure, and we'll see that over the next few months. I could get quite excited, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about how much we've got to do to get there, but we will.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I'm not seeing any other questions or hands up, so thank you very much for the input, the questions and the presentation. Can I move us then on to item 9, please, which is the Children's Rights Team Annual Report, and we have Anna Gledhill with us, I believe, and Melanie Tiernan to help take us through that. So this is pages 29 to 56 in your pack. Anna, over to you.
Well, I'm actually going to sound like I'm copping out and say over to Mel, who will do the presentation, but I'll be here to chip in if there's any questions.
Lovely.
And I just also
That's
say
fine.
we've got a new children's rights manager, because Mel Tiernan has gone part-time, who is Chrissy Podgorski, and she's here in the background just observing Mel as well.
Yeah, Jodie did tell me that Chrissy was here, and welcome, Chrissy. Sorry about that. So, Mel.
Okay, right, Councillor Kendrick, thank you. I presume you want my camera on while I'm presenting, do you?
Oh, absolutely. Want to see your happy smile.
I was going to say, unfortunately for you, having to look at me, but okay. Unfortunately, Councillor Kendrick, I haven't got the bundles, so I've not got the same page numbers that you have, because they're slightly different, aren't they? So what page number did you say my report starts at?
29. It's
29.
Agenda item 9.
Right, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so apologies. I hope we can follow through. I'm kind of doing it by the sections, really, then, in that case.
Well, we'll follow what you do it that way.
Yeah. So obviously we've got the introduction. So an overview of looking at section page 4 on my report, and section 5, which is about the impact of the COVID-19. So just highlighting a few little bits from there, really. And as you can see from the report, one of the main challenges for the service throughout the COVID was the reduction of face-to-face visits. But the team did embrace the use of virtual methods during the lockdown particularly. And so currently the service is offering a mixture of both face-to-face, which are prioritised as much as possible, but also some of the virtual as well. And that's led by the needs of the young person and their wishes and feelings as well. In section 5.6, you can see that the Children in Care Council and the Care Leavers Forum did continue to meet virtually. So it did keep running and keep going, but the children and young people were very keen to start face-to-face meetings as soon as possible. And a couple of these have now happened, and the young people really want to continue meeting face-to-face rather than virtual. 5.7 outlines that the independent visitor scheme continued to operate, but again volunteers had to think more creatively because they were unable to meet face to face with the children and young people. So keeping in touch was had to change really to doing virtual things, but they showed great creativity, and the majority were in touch quite regularly over the period of lockdown, and face-to-face visits have started to resume again now. From 5.8, the opportunities have been outlined, which have included the use of social media and virtual platforms, and that's led to some new contact with children and young people who previously didn't engage with the children's rights team. So we were able to get out, communicate through the, social media, and then some bits of advocacy through that, so that was good. And that included some people that were out of area, which are some of our most vulnerable, of course. Moving on to point 6.2 of the report, this is outlining the contacts that the service has had with children and young people. Those contacts involve a variety of reasons, but as in previous years' reports, the main contact relates to conversations and contact with regard to our advocacy for children looked after and care leavers. In section 7, you'll see that there is a bar graph, which is a comparison of the 3-year periods, and that again shows increased contact in all areas of the different functions that the service undertakes. In section 8, section 8.1, you can see that a total of 162 individual children or young people accessed advocacy support, and some of these had multiple issues. There's a pie chart just below that, and that talks about the issues that have been raised. It shows what issues have been raised and what support has been given, and there continues to be a high level of support given to children and young people for their looked after review meetings, and that's ensuring that their wishes and feelings are heard at these meetings and can be taken into consideration when decisions are being made. At 8.2, you can see that of the other standalone advocacy, so that's advocacy not relating to looked after reviews, children and young people have been supported. The majority were supported, and they got an outcome which was to their satisfaction. So that's good as well. And at 8.3, you can see that 70 children or young people who live outside the area of Kirklees have received advocacy support. In terms of themes and patterns, it shows that for this year's reporting period, there was a high proportion of advocacy issues raised in relation to financial support, but most of those achieved a positive outcome for children and young people. And 31 advocacy issues have been supporting a young people with a complaint. That's a very low number compared to the overall number of advocacy issues, as you can see. And again, the main issue for raising a complaint was in relation to finance. So on page 9 of the report, we move on to child protection advocacy. And you'll see there that the team were able to support more children and young people at child protection conferences during the last 12 months than the previous 12-month period. This may largely be due to the reduced amount of travel that's been needed, both to actually attend the meetings and to give that support for children and young people in getting their wishes and feelings, and also in giving feedback to them. So that's probably benefited in that way. However, we do find that face-to-face advocacy support is still better for children and young people, particularly in the instance of child protection conferences, and these have been prioritised for face-to-face visits as we're going forward. In section 10, we talk about the other participation opportunities that are offered by the team. And again, this section shows that the Children in Care Council and Care Leavers Forums continue to meet virtually. And it did have the benefit of some young people living out of area being able to take part. And that's led us to consider a hybrid model for these two groups going forward, and developing a way that we can do both virtual and face-to-face meetings. We do want to increase the membership of both these groups to include a wider representation of children and young people. And to that end, we've started a task and finish group with other relevant services to try and ensure that we get young people involved in these groups and that we get a good representation from them. Recruitment panels, so young people being involved in the recruitment of staff coming to work with children and young people in Kirklees. Again, the involvement of children and young people has been able to continue doing that virtually, but the demand for this and timescales means that we have struggled as a team to meet the demands of that coming through. On page 10, which is section 11, that goes on to our quality assurance. And again, the team continues to work closely with the Child Protection and Review Unit and the complaints units in order that we can discuss themes from advocacy in the things that children and young people have raised, and also to work together to try and ensure that anything that young people do raise are resolved as quickly as possible. And in section 11.3, the outline there that a quality assurance audit was made of the child looked after advocacy work that's undertaken and of the independent visitor scheme. And both audits evidence that there was positive work and good practice happening within the team. However, an action plan has been drawn up in order to further enhance the service, because there's always things that can be made better in everything, isn't there?
Indeed.
Section 12, the voices of children and young people. So you can see there some direct quotes from children and young people, and generally the feedback that we get continues to be positive from children and young people, and provides evidence about the effectiveness of the service and the trusting relationships which the staff are able to build with the children and young people that they support. If we move on to page 14 on the report and appendix 2, there's a much in-depth report there for the independent visitor scheme. So I don't intend to take you through all the statistics that are there. I'm sure you've read them at your leisure. But just really the brief overview about the independent visitor scheme is that, like with a lot of things, they haven't obviously been able to meet young people face to face over the lockdowns, and that's been the biggest challenge for the volunteers. And also we continue to have young people on our waiting list, which is a challenge. The quality assurance activity highlighted the oversight of the scheme and ways that this can be strengthened, and there's an action plan in place for that. We are aware that we need to increase the number of independent visitors, and we're starting a recruitment campaign in this next month or so to try and increase the number of independent visitors. So what do we want to improve? So as discussed above, we want to increase the number of volunteers that we have with the Independent Visitors Scheme. We want to increase the membership of both the Children in Care Council and the Care Leavers Forum, and ensure that these are both representative of all groups of children and young people. We're working at introducing person-to-person meetings as soon as possible. So that's both for the groups and obviously getting out to see young people individually. There was a music project started just before lockdown with the Children in Care Council and Care Leavers Forum, and of course COVID completely got in the way of that, but we are now making inroads into re-establishing those sessions, and hopefully we'll get that finished by the autumn. And also to establish virtual sessions for young people who live in a host authority so that they can share their thoughts and views and ideas. So that's the hybrid model of the two groups. And we will continue to use virtual methods where it suits young people as well, and particularly for those out of area where it's sometimes more effective. And we'll continue to develop the links with managers of services to ensure that there's an effective mechanism for communication and the development of services which are led by children and young people, whilst also providing a forum for managers to consult children and young people. So making sure that the Children in Care Council and Care Leavers Forum provide that effective mechanism. So that's my kind of brief summary. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions. Or would you say that's not beef, Councillor Kendrick? I don't know, but
no, I was impressed that you've managed to romp through quite a weighty document that highlight quite a thing. So please don't.
I know you always have a packed agenda.
Yeah. So I can see Keith has his hand up. Keith.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Just to go back to point 9.1 on your page 9, I think it is. So ours is on 41. Child Protection Conference Advocacy. I see down there it says no referral received from social workers 16. Do you know why that is?
Well, what we do is when we don't receive a referral straight away, we do follow that up with the social workers. But no, Keith, I don't actually know whether it's because they haven't got it in time or you know, or what really. What I will say about it is that we are hoping to make the referral process smoother and make a one referral process, because at the moment there's a referral to the Child Protection and Review Unit to request a conference. Then the social worker has to also complete a separate referral for a children's rights advocate. So we're looking at combining the two so that social workers only have to do one document basically, and we're hoping that that will enhance the number of referrals coming through.
Yeah, my fear is that somebody drops out, but you actually pick them up the other side. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, say that again, Keith.
My fear is that they're not represented because nobody knows about it, but you actually pick them up the other side, do you?
Yeah, we well, what happens is we get a date from CPRU, but we get the referral from the social worker. So sometimes we have to try and marry the two up. So
Right.
sometimes we get the referral first, and sometimes we get the date first, and so then we have to chase one or the other. So we're looking at making that slicker, and that will also make it easier on social workers as well, because then they've only got one document. So we do chase up, and sometimes the referral might come in, but it's a bit close to, because obviously initial conferences there's a very short time scale to get out to do advocacy for them. So we're trying to speed up the whole process so that we can get out to see more young people. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith. Not saying anything else. Can I just say to colleagues that I don't, you probably have read them, but on page 51, there is the bit about what's good about having an independent visitor. How's this helped you? And children, young people have responded there, and it's very, very telling actually. Some of the comments that they make as to how valuable it is to them. You know, it's someone who doesn't have to follow all the same guidelines as professionals. I can talk to them about anything I want to, you know, and it's another outlet, isn't it? It gives me a bit of space to talk to another person. You know, the independent visitors, I think, are invaluable. And again, if anybody out there is watching, if you want to volunteer, we would welcome you. Get in touch.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to do adverts through this. There won't be anybody watching, but there we are.
Please do. I think it's a service, it's hard to measure success in numbers, and it's where we have to include those quotes really to show the individual difference that they do make for children and young people. And I think part of our recruitment campaign is also increasing the publicity of the scheme and the service and getting it out there more in the council so that it's a more outward facing service, and that we shout a lot more about the good work that is done. You know, we did publicise that over lockdown, or we tried to, in amongst all the other COVID messages. And I think part of our recruitment campaign will be increasing the publicity around the good work that is done as well.
I think that's really, really important as such. Colleen, you want to comment?
Yeah, I was going to say my children have used independent visitors, and it's been absolutely amazing for them. They've really loved it, and I can highly recommend it. It's rewarding for both the child and the independent visitor as well. It's just, you know, it's a bond there. It's another adult that doesn't have to be, you know, what they call tick box exercises, they call it. It's just a person that wants to be your friend, who wants to support you, wants to go out with you, and there's no agenda behind it other than both of you to have some fun. That's it.
Thanks for that, Colleen. It definitely is. And, you know, one of the big things that young people know is that lots of people that are involved in their lives are paid to be part of their lives, whereas the volunteers are just giving up their time because they want to do that and be with them. So, yeah, and they don't know everything about them. Most of us who work with, not so much in advocacy because we don't know all the history either, because we are the voice of the child and what they want to represent, what they want to say. But yeah, the independent visitors are only told of any risks, obviously, but they don't know the potted history of the young people. It's up to the young person what they want to say. So that's what young people like about it as well. Yeah.
I think it's an essential thing for our young people. I just wondered, and I don't know if the council does this anymore. I can remember at one time there was a bit sort of a mini internal course for people who work for the authority who were about to retire. And if that still exists, then a bit of advertising about the independent visitor scheme in that process might well be a way of picking up some people who would like to contribute in the future, you know.
It does still exist. Yeah, it does still exist, Councillor Kendrick. It's a good thing. Yes, it does. Yeah, and then one of the things,
telling people about what to do with the pension and how to invest the money.
That's right.
There's a bit about what you're going to do with your time, and here's a really valuable thing you can contribute. Get them advertised.
Yeah, I'll speak to the guy about that. Thank you.
Did you want to go through any of the questions from the letter, Councillor Kendrick, in relation to independent visitors?
Yes, we had I had an email with a letter attached. I think it's from Bernardo's. I've had it twice now, and we haven't responded officially yet. And we decided it was something that ought to come to Corporate Parenting Board before there was a response. Jodie, you were going to hopefully do something magic and put the letter up on screen so people. It's nearly, I think, the second page. I think there's 6 or 7 questions that they ask us. I'm hoping.
Yeah, 1 second, it should be coming.
Okay. I believe in you, Jodie.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Not as yet. Yeah, it needs can you make it a bit bigger, and it needs to just go a little bit lower down the letter, Jodie?
That okay?
Well, I don't know if I've got it separately on my other screen, so I'll look at it there. I don't know if that's it. The first question is about there. So the first question is, duty was imposed by the Children's Act 1989 and then expanded in the Children and Young Persons Act 2008 for the provision of independent visitors for children who are looked after. Does your LA have an independent visitor provision? If not, are you aware of the reasons for this? Well, our answer to that is yes, we have, isn't it? The second question is about this organisation campaigning to achieve a minimum 10% access rate of eligible children nationwide that's adequately resourced. Are you aware what percentage of your eligible children in care are matched with an independent visitor? Are you aware of the value of this service has given to them?
Yeah, so Mel and I looked at the figures yesterday, and we are at around 5% in Kirklees, but we are aware, as Mel talked through the report today, that we need to increase the number of independent visitors. So we will have an aim to increase that to 10%, and we've got an action plan and a recruitment campaign with an aim to achieve that.
Right, and we're very much aware of the value, aren't we?
In terms of the value, yeah, so we did the QA report, which highlighted around the value, and we've discussed it today. And then there's also there'll be a 6-monthly update that's provided to Corporate Parenting Board. I understand it's around October, November time as well, in terms of the Children's Rights Team and the IV Independent Visitors Scheme. So again, we can touch on that in there.
Yeah. Do your panel or committee members and your Children in Care Council know everything they should about independent visitors and independent visitor entitlement? And they recommend us visiting a website. So I don't know what board members think. Do you feel you know everything you should about independent visitors? There's a huge silence in my way. Colleen, you want to say something?
Yeah, I know about independent visitors. My young man's just been referred, so hopefully within the near future that should happen. But yeah, most foster carers know about it, and it is mentioned a lot at support groups as well. So foster carers are aware of it, which obviously the child gets to know most of the time. You know, I push it when I speak to the carers, because it's, like I say, I know how important it is for them to have those relationships outside of the fostering home.
It is one of the things that should be shared at the looked after review as well. The reviewing officer has got a duty to explore that in each review.
Right. I suppose I'm looking at councillors on the board, how aware they are of the independent visitors scheme and how it works.
I mean, what this might link into, Councillor Kendrick, is what I talked around about making the scheme more outward facing and more public facing, and doing a publicity as well as a recruitment campaign, so that people are fully aware of it and aware of the benefits that it is and that it exists.
But perhaps we could, I'll bring Councillor Smith in a minute, perhaps we could consider arranging something where board members could be invited to a briefing with somebody, well, from the coordinator of the scheme perhaps, or to meet a couple of independent visitors. Richard, do you want to come in?
Thanks. Yeah, no, you asked this question, I was going to just answer it. Honestly, I had very little knowledge of this, to be quite fair, but I will look at the link here that's provided and educate myself. So that's something we should be doing.
I think that's about national standards, but go on, yes.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'll read it anyway, but yeah, I think it's definitely something we should have a look at further. That was all, no question really.
Yeah, I do think corporate parenting board members should be familiar with the independent visitor scheme and how it works, and you know, really to have a clear view on it.
And we do have Councillor Kendrick, an independent visitor who actually did do a PowerPoint presentation to other new independent visitors as part of their training, and it was a really good presentation that showed you know, that what he does with the young person, and the young person came along to the training as well and presented. So, you know, whether that could be done at a corporate parenting board meeting, or like you say, some other briefing outside when the young person's available, if they want to do that again, could do something like that.
Yeah.
I think it would be a nice offer to make to board members, because it away from corporate parenting board, because we tend to be trying to get things at pace, and I think it's something that should be consumed at leisure and enjoyed and understood fully, you know. Yeah, really good. So where are we with the questions on this now? Oops. Who is running your scheme, and is this provision working well and following the national standards? Are they running house or contracted out? Well, ours is in-house. It's working well, and we know who runs the scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, and we do follow the national standards as well.
Good. Is independent visitor provision on your agenda at least once a year? Do you receive an annual report? We could send them a copy of the annual report, eh? Yeah. And do you have an action plan to ensure that your independent visitor service is well run? Well, as you're talking about, you're producing your own action plan, aren't you, to achieve improvements? I don't think that's a role of the board as such. It is just making sure that you do that, really, as much as anything, Anna. And is the last bit... are you aware of an IV offer for care leavers in your local authority?
Sorry, Anna, you were going to answer, or am
Yeah, we're probably both going to answer the same thing. So at the moment, if we have a young person who has an independent visitor, they are entitled to keep that independent visitor when they turn 18 and beyond, and we've produced some guidance that's been agreed around how that relationship works and looks, given that the young person is an adult. We don't at the moment have an offer just to care leavers. We would like to build our base of independent visitors to be able to do that, but we do extend the offer when children and young people go beyond the age of 18 if they're already matched.
Okay. All right. I think that's really helpful. Just for my own information, I am not expecting to respond to these people on this letter, and I'm looking for someone who will respond on behalf of the authority. Is that likely to be you, Anna, or someone else?
Yeah, I mean, it was Tom Brailsford sent me the letter, so I'm happy to pull together some sentences to reflect what we've discussed today and share it with Tom for it to be responded to.
Lovely. Thank you very much, because they are nagging me by sending me reminders. So, Keith, are you wanting to come in on this, or is that an old hand?
No, it's a new hand.
A new hand. Well,
I've got to catch a train.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Enjoy your train ride. I envy you. Just before we move off the children's right team, we obviously, and we've already touched on the fact that Sana, who's been on corporate parenting board as a representative of care leavers, has just got so old now that she can't continue. And I did talk to Mel informally the other week about if there might be someone else who could come along as a representative of just feeding back any issues that arrive at the Care Leavers Forum or Children Care Council. And you weren't sure whether that's was possible or not, Mel, and I don't know if that's still a work in progress. But I think you had some thoughts, or the service had some thoughts about other ways as well that the voice of the child and young person could be heard by corporate parenting board. Do you just, am I putting you on the spot, or do you want to just
No,
talk
that's
about
fine.
two of
Yeah.
us?
Yeah, no, that's fine, Councillor Kendrick, thank you. Yes, yeah, we had a discussion, didn't we, about, you know, one thing is that the board meets at, you know, during school hours and college hours, so that makes it more difficult for a young person to actually be part of the corporate parenting board. But we did talk about looking to see if there is someone who is perhaps at college that the timing might suit them, because I think Councillor Kendrick, you felt there was some value in having someone there, even if it was their individual experience of going through being on the care system journey and becoming a care leaver, etc. But kind of whether it's a standalone or then coupled with one of the other ideas was about if the Children in Care Council and Care Leavers Forum perhaps presented or a video or a PowerPoint of some description is presented to the board maybe every 3 or 4 months, which outlines what they've been working on or whether there are any issues that are being raised by the young people. Again, if there are young people to be able to be there to present that, that would be great, but because of the timing, that's not always possible. So that's something that could be looked at, so that you've got the voice of a young person as an individual on the board, but you've also getting periodically the voice collectively of children and young people. And then we also talked about the other link into the board and young people's voices is professionals and members of the board attending the Children in Care Council and Care Leavers Forums meetings. So obviously COVID's made things go a little bit askew, but we have had some visitors. And I think one of the things that we talked about maybe putting into place would be regular slots for people like yourself, Councillor Kendrick, to attend. Mel Meggs has attended a couple of times. Ophelia, Mel suggested that Ophelia attends both groups periodically as well. We have a link person from the Looked After Children's team and a link person from the Care Leavers team. So we've got plenty of managers and professionals actually coming to the forums that then, you know, that they can actually have that mechanism to feed backwards and forwards. Ophelia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I used to attend
You did?
every care leaver and looked after forum, so I will be intending to partake in those discussions again. So just need to know the dates and times, and I think it'd just be a real good opportunity to actually refresh and to look at how we can do things differently.
Yeah.
That are in line with what the young children, young people, how they want to actually share the information, how they want to engage with us. So if you can send me that information through, then that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, we will, Ophelia. They've just got 2 sessions left up before the summer break, and then they break for summer. They perhaps have a reward session during the summer, and then they'll meet again in September. So we're putting together the plan now. So we will send you some dates through, you know, when you can be invited to attend. And I think finally, the other thing that we just wondered about, and it was about whether you know, the board coming to young people to ask their opinion about things, and whether there could be some mechanism for using our social media platforms, because we now have our Twitter and Instagram accounts. Now, I don't get me wrong, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, and I don't really know very much, but we got people in the team who do. You know, and we talked, didn't we, Councillor Kendrick, about whether that could be used as a mechanism if there were things that the board wanted to ask children and young people. Then a link can be put on those social media platforms to say, you know, the corporate parenting board would like to know what you think about, follow this link and that kind of thing. So it's about it was about a variety, I think, of methods rather
Yeah.
than just saying, here's a young person who sits on the corporate parenting board. You know, it's been lovely looking at Sanna's beautiful face this morning, and I know she's done a brilliant job. So I'm not saying that, you know, with any derogatory about that, but I think it's just about using everything that's there to make it as robust as possible.
I think your suggestions enhance us being able to hear those voices and those opinions that we really need to do. As far as attending Children Care Council, Care Leavers Forum, I have in the past. For me, I think, and it is up to those two bodies to decide how often and when an invite for someone, some board member to go. I don't think it should always be me. I love going, don't get me wrong, but then I'm sort of hogging it all, and I know and get the feel of it exactly, but other colleagues need to have that experience. I think perhaps an invite periodically where someone from the board could go, or if they could tolerate two from the board, don't want to overwhelm things, you know. But I think your suggestions about videos or PowerPoints and us putting questions or concerns back, you know, whether it would work. Yeah, it would work on Twitter. I don't know about Instagram. Dale.
I know I'm only a visitor, Councillor Kendrick,
Oh,
but
hey, you know I want you to ask or comment.
when I heard the words Instagram and Twitter, I immediately had palpitations because I am very much aware of some of the trolling that goes on both those sites. I cannot imagine what someone who feels that they have a beef against the service might start doing on one of those platforms. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's a well-expressed concern. A lot of social media communications can be kept to a guarded group so that others from outside can't, and we would only be able to put something on via officers, I think, is the situation. But Sanna, you want to comment? You probably know better than any of us.
I think both children's rights services accounts are private, so no one can really see anything unless, and if they do comment, they can put on the sensitivity so no one else will see it if it's a personal thing related to them. So I think it's not a problem really because it's a closed kind of group.
Yeah, I think we have had a closed group for the Facebook account. I think Twitter and Instagram are more in the public, but it is monitored all the time. And you know, and I absolutely take the point, because that has been a large block in it taking so long to us to come to the point, because obviously we have to be aware of safeguarding and confidentiality. So that's always there in our minds, and it is trying to get that balance of young people saying that that's the way that they want to communicate, and what have you. The other area to look into in the fullness of time will be about apps on the phones as well and things like that. But yes, absolutely. Agree with the point about having to be careful about what is put out and monitoring. Yeah,
it's a point well raised, I think, and I think Facebook, if it's a closed group, would be the safer way of doing it rather than Twitter, quite frankly. Good. So I don't know, board members, have you any views about how we continue to hear the voice of young people and the voice of the child? Nobody. I'm assuming you're all happy with those thoughts if no one's going to say anything further. So it's a work in progress. I'll say it at this point. I was going to do it later on the agenda, but we have to say a huge thank you to Sanna Mahmood, who has stepped up, has been articulate, has annoyed us by never giving up and continuing to make her point till we all give in, roll over and say, okay, we hear what you're saying. And I know we're not going to replicate Sana. Different people will have different approaches and different levels of confidence. But I have to say to Sana, thank you so much for the time that you've given and the effort you've put in. Been absolutely outstanding. Thank you. Right. Any further comments on the Children's Right team? Sana is coming back here. Yes.
Oh, so I wrote something for you all because I wanted to say thank you.
All right.
So,
okay.
So there's a Parisian philosopher called Omar Karimi, and his main work, when translated into Latin, reads, "The meaning of life is what we are doing right now." So thank you all for what you're doing right now, because if you didn't, and my life and so many young people's lives wouldn't be changed. I don't know why I'm crying, sorry. Instead, I am sorry. I'm working as a public servant in the best council ever. I'm going to start my Oxford PhD, and I've opened up a think tank. So I'd like to thank you so much for this experience. I've learned so much from you all, and I will forever be indebted to you all, and you all know why. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sana. Just managed to make me cry as well. Dear me. Right, item 10. This is really, really important, and I know we're running really short on time now, but it is so important. Item 10 is a long-awaited overall financial policy for care leavers, which Sana has been a great advocate for. And Elaine, I think you're going to just help us and take us through this, are you?
I have got a bit of a presentation, Councillor Kendrick, if that's all right.
Yeah,
Lisa,
that's absolutely fine.
Lisa,
and Lisa's here as well.
Yeah, can I just say before I start, because actually, Sana, I don't know why you've left me. I've got to now talk, and my eyes are running. It must be the hay fever. But a few months ago, I made a call to Lisa and explained my vision for the care leavers policy, which was quite garbled really, but I had got a real vision, and she had to take that from me and actually go away. And the amount of work that Lisa's done to get us to this place is second to none. That we would not have this policy where it is now without Lisa. So I have to, this is Lisa's work, so I have to say a big thank you on behalf of our care leavers for that. And I know Lisa's learnt a lot through this process. So we're just going to go through a quick presentation. You've got the report, quick presentation, and then we'll take some questions if that's all right, Chair.
That's absolutely
Lisa,
fine.
can you put the presentation up? Oh, that's great, thanks. Okay, so Councillor Richard Smith. So we know the National Independent Review of Children's Social Care is underway, and including the scope is support for young people as they prepare to leave care and those receiving ongoing support once they have left care, which is a key area. Some of our, that moving on your own is probably one of the biggest things that our young people will do. We know the average age for a non-care experienced person leaving home is between 24 and 26, and that's increasing year on year. The published statistics show that in 2019-20, 28% of 19 to 20-year-olds were still living in their former foster carers in staying put arrangements. The vast majority of care leavers move on into independently at 18 years old, and that's young. We know that's young. I can remember back I can actually remember what it's like to be 18. It's not always a great place to be, no matter what your circumstances. So 13% of care leavers progressed to higher education by the age of 19, compared to 43% of other pupils. But what it shows is the emerging research says that actually care leavers do go on to higher education, but later in their 20s or later in life. The National Audit Office Care Leavers Transition to Adult paper in 2015 acknowledged poorer life outcomes are a long-standing issue which is likely to result in high costs across the whole system: mental health, employment, education, policing and justice services. And in October 2020, the Children's Commissioner for England, Anne Longfield, published 10 asks for care leavers, including these where recommendations for what local authorities should include in their local offer for care leavers. I think, at least, yeah, our policy is built on our aspirations for care leavers in Kirklees, our children as a whole. We have 274 care leavers. That was in June 2021. That has actually gone up. Colleen, you asked a question earlier on. This time last year, that was about 240. So we have had a number leave this year. 6.3 of care leavers are in higher education. That was at March 2021. Just over half, 56%, aged 17 to 18 are in education, employment or training. At the age of 19 to 21, this figure is lower at 41%. 21% of care leavers aged 17 to 18 and 58% of care leavers aged 19 to 21 live independently, have a place on their own. Can you imagine how that feels? We've talked about that earlier in the meeting. That's a large number. 27 care leavers, 10% living staying put arrangements. The majority of these young people are aged 18, and that's 54% of those. And what we're trying to do is increase that. We've talked about the staying put policy that links to this document. Can you move on, Lisa? So the case for change. Our ambitions have matured through our improvement journey. We've had a lot of work to do, and we've come a long way since 2016, and we've learned a lot. We're continuing to learn, and especially over the last year. This last year has taught us things, every one of us, I think, things we thought we'd never experience, and it just informs our thinking. Emerging evidence on the economic and social impact of coronavirus shows that young people aged 12 to 24 years are the one of the worst affected groups, particularly in terms of the labour market and mental health outcomes. So it's thinking about their futures, their current but their futures. Care leavers have talent and want to get somewhere in life. That goes without saying. Every one of our care leavers have talent, and it all comes out in different ways. They're all individuals, and what we need to do is we need to wrap around personalised support to nurture their ambitions and improve their life chances. We absolutely have to wrap around them like they've got their a warm comfort. We need policies which reflect and underpin our vision to enable us to make real sustainable difference and deliver outstanding services for children and young people, all our children and young people. Being a good parent isn't about following prescribed processes and set a set of rules. Sometimes we will need to do more or do things differently to improve outcomes. I think we have to have some processes, but what we need is creativity, innovation, and actually putting children central, and that bespoke approach to each one of them. The current financial support policy for care leavers was last updated in 2016, and if you read it, yeah, it shows it isn't flexible enough to facilitate the way we envisage supporting our care leavers. These care leavers are an extension of ourselves, and for those, whether you've got children, cousins, nephews, it's about what is right for them should be right for our care leavers. And to move on, I'm sorry I'm going at a pace, I'm just conscious of time. The Leaving Care grant isn't enough to buy what's needed to make where they live feel like a home they can feel proud of. That's a fact. The choice of where they can live when they turned 18 and aren't great, often in areas where they were looked after and we want to keep them away from. I think Sana, can you remember, Sana, when you came to the improvement board some time ago and you made a statement in that meeting, you said you become where you live, and if you place care leavers in vulnerable settings, they'll become increasingly vulnerable. So we're doing a lot of work around that. Really important they feel safe in their settings.
Thank you currently for changing the policy, because I know a lot of young people, and they've been placed in like new builds and these amazing housing. So thank you so much for doing that, because I know when you drive and you help them, you know, to buy furniture and stuff, you go to the homes and you're like, oh, this is so much nicer. So thank you so much for that.
It's a team effort, Sam, a team effort. There should be more opportunity to stay living with their foster families when they turn 18. Absolutely. We've got to create the conditions that enable that to happen. We own that, really. Digital connectivity is important, not just for education, but about keeping them in touch with family and friends. Absolutely important. They would like support, more support with bank accounts, budgeting and managing money. They would like more support to go to university at a time that's right for them. It's unfair the council doesn't pay council tax care leavers if they live outside Kirklees. There's a lot of things that the care leavers have told us. The support we give in emergencies or at time of crisis could be better. They have talents and interests they want to explore and develop, but don't have the money to spend on activities or equipment. So we take all this into account. Lisa, what difference do we want to make? Our aims are to reduce inequality gaps and improve outcomes and life chances for our care leavers, giving them every opportunity to be successful. We are making a commitment that no care leaver should experience poverty. That is a massive challenge, but that is a commitment that we're truly making and holding on to. To get us there, we need to make sure care leavers move to live independently only when they're ready. Make education, employment and training attractive and affordable. Encourage self-belief and nurture ambition. Have all the aspirations any parent would for their child, whilst remembering our young adults' selves and what was important to us. So remembering what it was like. I remember I've talked about being 18, 19, 20, getting my first home, the excitement of that. And how will we do this? We'll implement a refreshed input policy to better support both care leavers and young people to stay living together after their 18th birthday. Improve the support and recognition for undertaking education, employment and training. Move away from a one-size-fits-all sets of rules. We've got a parenting rule book at the moment. We're not throwing all the rules out of the window because you have to put some expectations in this. They're still learning for our young people. But actually, we're not going to parent by rules alone. PAs will be encouraged to think differently about how we support care leavers to achieve their goals and ambitions, and we're doing some work with them about how we will do that, delegating more responsibility to PAs. Have a care leaver pot, which PAs and care leavers can together agree to use. So that's the learning. We all make decisions about, can we afford this? Can we afford both things? Do we wait for something? So it's all that work that we do with our care leavers to encourage that independence. Lisa, so that's a snapshot. You've got the report that sets out some of the key changes, and really now it's just a point of asking any questions. Want to take the slides then?
Colleagues, open to any questions or comments. Colleen.
As usual, I've read through this one briefly and I think it's an absolutely fantastic step forward. The fact that they can access a little bit more funding when they need it, maybe even just to go on a holiday, you know, that just makes a difference for these kids who have been in foster place and they've gone all over the place and all of a sudden they're 18. What are we saying, that you can't have a holiday because you can't afford it? I think that's really good that you're doing that, and the fact that I know I'm going on to staying put, but I've read that policy and it's amazing that you can do that for carers and for, I'm going to get upset now, look, and kids. Hang on a minute.
Oh dear, it's one of those days.
Catching it, Anna. It's just amazing the turnaround in the last few years, especially with a different management structure, that we've seen this coming, and it's just so worth waiting for, really is. I'm so proud of Kirklees for actually biting the bullet and getting on with it and get it done now, and it's just great. And thank you, Lisa, for everything you've done, because everything I've read has been really positive, and it makes carers have that chance to support our young children more, and that's what we want to do. We do it anyway, but to be able to do with you, our backing is so much more important, and the kids know that that's you know, you wanting to support them now, and that's brilliant. Hats off to you, really are.
How lovely.
Thank you.
Anna, you want to make a comment?
Just to say it's really welcome, this policy, because you will have heard from Melton, and when she said the Children's Rights Report, that the issues and the complaints, the main things that were raised as issues were around the finances. And this is going to make things much clearer and clearer for our service and advocates to be able to actually navigate what's needed. And yeah, it's really, really welcome. So thank you.
Indeed. I mean, I can echo the children's rights team as the portfolio holder. The greatest number of complaints I've ever had from care leavers has been around financial issues. Not necessarily always complaints about the authority, but I don't know where to go next. I'm feeling stuck financially is a very common theme, but certainly our response as an authority wasn't at all flexible with the previous policy. And, you know, I'm absolutely heartened that people have been willing to take this on and really look inside the authority and look at what we should do better. I absolutely welcome this. I assume this has got to come to cabinet. Has it, Elaine, yet? Does it
Yes,
come to cabinet? Yeah. I mean, I do support it. I'm always wanting more, you know that. There are some aspects of it. Give it 6 months and I'll be saying, no, I want us to relook at that, and etc. Because I think it has to be a living document, doesn't it?
Absolutely. This is a starting point. You know, I think what Lisa's been able to do is research across the country. This, you know, this is for our Kirklees children. This is what they deserve. And actually what we'll learn as it's implemented is that there's more. There's always more.
Yes.
And it's how we balance that off. So we've already said to ET, we're asking for a corporate budget as well, some things that will happen corporate, so we're doing a piece of work on that. There's still further work to be done, so this is a starting point, but it's recognising having aspirations for our young people and ensuring that we support where they're in with carers, that everybody gets the right support, that we can, you know, that people shouldn't be under pressure when they're caring for this young person that's staying post 18. We want to make this right. And this is a starting point, as I say. It will evolve further, I know, Councillor Kendrick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the bits of it, I think, yeah, that's fine. That's lovely. And thank God Lisa's managed to alter that. But bits of it, I'm thinking, oh, no, I'd like more ambition than that. Thank you. Richard.
No, thank you. I just want to say I fully support your comments. I think this is an excellent idea. I think that it's not just about carers getting the support. It's about the children having the support that, you know, ultimately my biggest thing I always come back to with this, and it doesn't matter what the intricacies of your views are, but I always come back to the same thing, that children without a normal, well, I use that word, probably a wrong word to use, but you know what I'm saying, without the normal family background, have got a lot of disadvantages compared to children who have. And the important thing is, to me, that we try and put things in place for those kids to, you know, feel as supported as possible, because you can't just chop them out of the, you know, the service at 18 and say, now you're growing up. You know, it's a bit like we've been discussing with Sana. You know, you've got to carry on understanding that at 18 people are not actually going to be able to just go to the big wide world on their own without any support at all. You know, my kids, when they get to 18, will still be coming back to me, won't they? And it's important that the corporate parenting role takes that on board as well.
Wait till they come back when they're in the 40s, Richard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll probably be dead by then, to be quite honest. I was an old dad. I forgot we recorded this,
Shannon,
aren't we? I better not be sarcastic.
I
I'll
was
certainly
gonna
not be
say,
crying. I'm
Richard,
gonna go off mute now. I think.
at some point there needs to be a cut-off point. I am 102 now, so you know,
Yeah.
I can't just keep coming back.
You will. We know where you
Yeah.
are anyway, Fanny, don't we?
Yeah.
You're not far.
Yeah, indeed.
Opposite Ophelia.
Yeah.
You'll find me.
Excellent stuff. Well, can I say, I can't say enough about how thankful I am for this report. And it has been an uphill struggle. It's been written and rewritten and edited and rewritten and done again and researched and rewritten. And it is just fantastic. And I am so pleased to hear, you know, foster carers feeling it's splendid. I think it can always improve, and I will be pushing for improvement. But I'll be saying to the authority, empty your wallet a bit, because children's services can't do this on their own. But, you know, I can't say thank you enough, Elaine, to you, the team, to Lisa and everybody. And it's about now getting it through the admin system, isn't it? But then embedding it in the care leaving service, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And getting that whole culture of creativity and none of the computer says no stuff.
No.
Exactly. So I'm hoping that board members are happy to accept this and for this to go forward to Cabinet. Speak now if you disagree, otherwise I'm taking it, because I can only see 2 people and a few pictures. I'm taking it that you're happy with that. We move to item 11. We've had Janet Tolley's apologies, but we have Councillor Carol Pattison with us here just to give us a verbal update on the school governing body as such. Carol, over to you. Don't make us cry.
Thanks, Viv. Not an awful lot to say, which to a certain extent, which because a lot of it's already been said in terms of attendance of care leavers and moves in year and things like that. But I should, in terms of the outcomes for care leavers in the virtual school this year, I mean, it's been very difficult, of course, you know, because of COVID, and we haven't been able to, or the virtual school staff haven't been able to keep track of their achievements as well as that we would normally do so. But having said that, what information is available to us, I mean, it's quite pleasing, and it's been shown that both in the primary and the secondary schools, that on the whole, the attainment appears to have actually improved for primary school children, and stayed steady for secondary school. So so that's it's difficult to have comparative data with earlier years or with even years going forward, of course, but it's not been as bad as we perhaps might feared at first in terms of the effect that COVID would have. All the PEPs have been personal education plans have been completed. Now we've moved to termly ones, and they've all been completed more or less within the time scale, but they've all been 100% have been completed, with just 4 being beyond the 10 days time that they is allowed for that. I should, one of the startling things, it's worth reiterating, I suppose, but one of the startling things that I always find is that out of the total of 430 children who are under the care of the virtual school, they actually attend 220 different educational settings at the moment. That's sort of, It is, gosh. I mean, that's an enormous job for the staff of the virtual school to keep in touch with, on average, 2 children in 220 and different schools. So I think that, you know, the work they do has to be applauded for that. And of those 220, most of them are out of area. Well, I mean, it's a small majority, but they it's only 101 are actually within Kirklees. So that makes it even more difficult, the fact that they're out of area. I say, things haven't gone as badly as we might have feared in terms of the education of children within the virtual school. Things are looking okay in terms of their attainment. I mean, yeah, I suppose as with a lot of children, it's actually suited some children to actually work from home, and they found that easier than actually going to school. That sounds awful, doesn't it? So, I mean, just in terms of, well, some breaking news, I suppose. We've just heard that we've been given a grant, which I don't know the full details yet, but to extend the role of the virtual school head teacher to not just look after children, but children with a social worker. So that will be interesting. I mean, and not only in as far as what you know, the outcomes of that might be, but also actually whether or not the grant is sufficient to actually cover the additional resources that might be needed to cope with that. Well, I suppose the focus going forward, I mean, which I think you may well have read earlier on, but it's still obviously COVID is number one, overcoming that, maintaining the termly PEPs, keeping on top of attendance, which again has not been as bad as one might have feared through COVID, but again also difficult to firmly establish because of the way attendance for all children has been recorded. Again, obviously, children, well, not in employment or education or training, and then the school moves in year, wanting to keep those a focus on those so they are reduced. So that's very briefly. Oh goodness me, yeah, we're nearly out of time as well. The things that have been exercising the mind of the virtual school over the last month's year. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Carol. Anybody got any questions as such? Not seen any hands up. Good. We'll move on then, please.
I'm not sure I can answer them.
Well, you could say you come back to them. Often the ambition board, it says improvement board, but it is the ambition board update. Have you anything particular, Elaine, to
No, I think the main thing I'd comment on, Councillor Kendrick, is the last ambition board, because it's been broadened now. It's not just about children's social care, it's a much wider agenda. And the last one was that there was a focus on the SEND transformation. And I wonder if there's something that needs to come to the corporate parenting board about what that would look like for looked after children.
Yes,
going forward. I
would absolutely agree. I think, Jodie, if we make a note, that needs to be heading this way within this year, I think, before the not the the calendar year is what I mean. But yes, I think that's a good suggestion. Right, I'm aware of time and I'm going to leave us on membership of the board. There are some changes that need to be reported and then will be officially announced as such. Councillor Lunat will be standing down from the board, and in her place we will welcome Councillor Elizabeth Reynolds. I think Elizabeth may have been observing today, I'm not sure. can't see, but she will be in her place. We've thanked Sana Mahmood. I'm not going to thank her again, though my notes say to do so, but I will thank Councillor Lunat for her contribution to the board, and you know, at the same time as we welcome Councillor Reynolds. And the other issue was about the care leaver representation, which we discussed under item 9 as such, and that's a work in progress. Updates from board members from interactions with services. I don't know if anybody has anything to report. I went over the past couple of months, I've been to visit 3 children's social work teams, Batley, one in the Colne Valley, I think, and the Huddersfield hub as such. Very, very interesting, really positive feeling within the teams. They raised issues that if only this would make life better, as I asked them to do. But, you know, a real strong commitment to the work they do and a huge enthusiasm, which for me is very heartening and comforting and helps me close the triangle about how well and healthy the service is, you know, so that's good. I have to say, if board members would like to visit particular bits of the service or teams, if you let myself or Jodie know, and we will make arrangements for that, because I do think it is a really useful thing just now and again to go and perhaps visit a team meeting or an event that they're doing. Really helps you be able to know that you're understanding what the service is doing and in what sort of state it is. So please don't be shy about letting us know if you would want to do that. Proposed areas of focus, if we can ask people to look at pages 113 to 122 are the lists of the agenda plan. I think there have been several items mentioned today which I no longer can call to mind that actually need to be put into the agenda to plan for the future. For the August meeting, we'll note that there is, oh dear, I've put my papers on the mouse and you all disappeared. There is the stay and put report, stay and put for fostering children in care, I think, which is absolutely essential. I'm looking forward to that coming to the board and people's reaction to that. And also we have a strategic director, David Shepherd, will be attending, because we ask each strategic director, what do the services in your portfolio, if you like, what are they contributing to children's services, to corporate parenting? And I think that's the right thing to do. So we'll be happily putting David on the spot at that meeting. And then there are some annual reports that need to come, but I think there have been several really interesting items that have been highlighted for the future agenda, and we will slot those in. I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts about it. The only thing I have to say is I'm not at all sure that I will be at the meeting on the 17th of August, because I was due to mystery shop the NHS on the 6th of July, and they've moved my operation back now in time to the 3rd of August. So I've no idea at what point. So I will be letting people know, but you will need to appoint a chair from the members as such if I'm not able to attend. Unless, of course, they put my operation back yet another month, because I'll be really in tears then. But hey-ho. So, can I thank everybody for their attendance? Thank all the people who presented to us. Not thank the people who've made us cry, but I understand why. It's been quite an emotional meeting. And say thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance, and hope to see you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Elaine, could you just stop on a minute?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.